Everybody. I am Mark McWatters, the VP of Sales here at Ambition. Welcome to your AA-ISP Virtual Sales Summit session on how to create a sales coaching culture that won't destroy your schedule or soul. Boy, that hits home. I have been in the sales coaching environment where your schedule is blown up and your soul feels this big. Let's talk about how we can tactically improve some of those things here in our session today. Before we get into the actual motion, we're going to, per usual, build the business case of why this is so important. So first off, 25% to 40% increase in deal size, sales activity, win rates, new leads when a sales coaching culture exists at a company per the RAIN data group. The average company is spending 10 to 15K on new rep hiring and onboarding per the Bridge Group. I would argue that is low when you really think about the expenses that go into recruiting somebody new, bringing someone onboarded, all the tools that get added, all the time by leadership, by enablement, by training. It's a lot more than 10 to 15K. But the point is a lot of money going into that new rep hiring and onboarding, but only spending 2K in sales training. So when we think about the same group, Bridge Group, talking about 10 to 15K for a new hire and only 2K ongoing, there's a real need to create more time for the sales coaching culture. Furthermore, 80% is the amount of sales training that's forgotten 3 months without reinforcement. We've all been there. You take the sales training, you're all fired up. You show up the next morning, some fire happens, poof, you've forgotten about the sales training that you just took yesterday. Or my personal favorite, the Friday sales training, you hit the weekend, you come in Monday morning, you hardly know what your name is. You don't know what sales training you took on Friday. So this is a real struggle. And when sales training is being forgotten, what's one way we could fix that? A more consistent, effective sales coaching culture. All right, 60% of your salespeople are likely to leave if their manager is a poor coach. What I would point out here is probably your top performers too. Your top performers are typically more interested in how they're improving, how they're getting better. They have this relentless commitment to always being number one. If they hit a developmental ceiling, guess what? They're going to go find a place where they can find that development elsewhere. So if you're a poor coach, let's commit to getting better. Your salespeople need it. We're going to talk about some ways that we can do that here in this session. So to lay out the agenda here, we're going to talk about organizing your week. We'll talk about setting the right activity, the right numbers, your sales formula. I'll share a planning guide for your weekly one-on-one conversation as a way to drive this consistent sales coaching. And then we'll show how we create some relevant action items out of a coaching conversation that keep you moving the ball forward with your team. So first thing, let's talk about this coaching schedule. And I'm going to paint the picture for you for the average sales leader. So if you're a CRO or C-suite, imagine this is one of your sales leaders on your team. If you're a sales leader, this might be you. If you're frontline, this might be your boss. But here's the standard setup for a sales leader today. So they obviously have their direct reports, account executives, sales development, account managers, whatever that looks like. So you have your team that you're committed to. You have the number on your forehead that you're driving each quarter, each year, each month, whatever the setup is. So not only do you have that, but you also have the other leaders of the business that you're working with. So they have initiatives, they have things they're driving, they need your input. How does that affect sales? So you're sitting there in the middle and you're managing across the different leaders of the company. Then you're also reporting up. In my case, you're reporting into founders of the company. In your case, it might be to your CRO who oversees support as well. And you're managing the initiatives that are coming from above. So as a leader in the org, not only do you have your team that most people think about, you have other leaders that you're managing, and you also have your boss and other priorities that are coming at you. So the typical sales leader's calendar is chocked full of meetings. Probably too many meetings. But what you have to think about is how do you drive the initiatives most important to you and to your number? Because ultimately, that's what you're being held accountable to. And so I prioritize my week around those most important initiatives and those most urgent deals that need to get done. So how can you be prepared for each conversation? We're going to walk through some of that here today. But first, I'm going to paint a picture for what my schedule in terms of communicating initiatives and focusing on pipeline looks like each week. So on Mondays, you'll see that I have a sales team stand-up. A sales team stand-up for us is Monday morning at 8 a.m. This is the whole team talking through three things. The first is pipeline. We open each Monday morning where our entire team walks through their committed and upside deals. For us, commit means that the customer has told us that deal will happen by X date in Salesforce. Upside is based on the experience of the account executive. They think they will close it by said date in Salesforce. That's also commit at a lot of companies. So we walk through each of those as a team. They talk through what's changed week over week. We talk through next steps. It gives me a chance to ask additional questions that help them might see holes in the pipeline, but we get aligned on the forecast. Then we talk about whatever current initiative is most important that week outside of the standard deals. Perhaps it's you're driving mutual action plans. You're relaunching a new discovery question deck, or you're launching a new intro that you would use before a demo to introduce people to your company. It could be any number of things, but that second piece is the initiative that me as a sales leader, I am driving that week. And then for us, the third part is the sales development leader comes and updates on meetings that are happening this week, named accounts that they're focused on, a brief pipeline update for the account executives and myself. Okay, so on Monday, that's how we kick it off. Also on Monday, I hold all my one-on-ones Monday afternoon and Tuesday. Why do I put them all together? Because it's my belief that it's important to align early in the week on the focus areas for that employee on Monday and Tuesday. So Mondays and Tuesday are very meeting heavy, but it gives me a chance to meet with each employee on my team one-on-one. By the way, they're 45 minutes. We'll get into some of the structure here in just a minute, but all that happens on Monday and Tuesday. Now, throughout the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have a very small stand-up in Slack. We use a tool called Geekbot. I think it's free. I shouldn't quote that, but it sends 3 basic questions. What did you accomplish yesterday? What do you plan to accomplish today? And what else would you like to share with the team? The value of that stand-up is everyone is seeing each other stand up. So there's transparency in what's being accomplished and obstacles that might jump up. Also, I am getting an update on the most important things that happened yesterday and the most important things that should happen today. So in this crazy world where there's so many different moving parts, the Slack stand-up is a great way for the employee when they start in the morning. Here's what I accomplished yesterday. Here's what I plan to accomplish today. There's team collaboration that happens as it posts. There's me and also our CRO who are involved that see that too. But everyone's aligned on the most important things that are driving. Then on Thursday, we have a mutual, or we have what we call game film, where this mutual action plan is an example of something we might cover. Game film, we bring the whole team together, and it started as a way to watch call recordings of a part of the sale that we're training around. And what it evolved to become is this focus area for whatever that initiative that I mentioned on Monday. It's a way for me to further communicate on Thursday. And we actually do this game film part every other week. Then on Friday, we host Go to Market. So on Friday at 10 a.m. Central, we have sales, product, marketing, CS, all on one call talking about some highlights from the week. So for sales, I'm updating them on a forecast. We're talking through closed won stories of why somebody signed up with us. We might also share whatever priority it is we're focused on this week. CS talks through a renewal. They talk through an expansion story. But the purpose and the common theme that you're seeing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday is that initiative that's being communicated. Now, some of you out there might say, Mark, gosh, that sounds like overkill. Well, there's the whole saying of if you haven't said it 10 times, you haven't said it once. When you're a leader, you have to communicate over and over and over again the simple message that needs to be heard by your team. And you need to make it easy for them to take that message and clearly understand it. So that's why I have the team meeting on Monday. We got the one-on-one to reinforce. We have the Slack stand-ups for what's being updated. We have Thursday to drive it home. And we have Friday in a bigger forum to mention again. So the idea here being that we're communicating initiatives on a regular basis with our team. All right, let's jump to the next slide. Okay, let me back up. All right, we got to fall in love with your sales formula. Now that we've covered that schedule, we have to know where to coach people. And if you don't know your sales formula, I recommend you get started. And what I mean by your sales formula is take that close one deal, that close loss deal, work backwards. How many, what stages did you progress through? How many meetings took place? How many calls did it take to get to that meeting? How many calls did it take to get to that appointment set versus that appointment held? And how many appointments converted into opportunities? How many opportunities went stage 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to closed 1? So if you don't know your sales formula, you need to get started. And you need, even if you don't have the exact answer, you need to start with your hypothesis of what that looks like in order to measure if you're improving or not on your formula. So here's a random example, kind of a standard, super high level of what you might do with your sales formula. So this dials to connects to meetings to SQL to closed 1. Why do you need a sales formula? Well, there are obvious reasons like, okay, you need process, you need to show what right looks like, all of those things. But for you as a sales leader, you have to know where to focus your time. And if you don't have a sales formula where you can look at conversion rates and say, okay, Jenny looks like she's doing well here and here, she's struggling here, here's where I'm going to focus my time coaching. Here's where I'm going to reinforce what she's doing well. And when you create that process and you can look at conversion rates between parts of the sales formula, you as a really busy sales coach, sales leader, know where to go focus your time. Okay, so we have this schedule, we have our sales formula. Here is an example of how you might measure your sales formula. So here you're seeing just a Google Sheet example of you have daily targets with a rep, putting in where they finished. You might have a weight to those metrics, creating that score if they had a good day or a bad day. Well, one thing Ambition does is we automate that. So we take that process, that sales formula, and we red, yellow, green. In this case, is Colin doing the things that will make him be successful. So when you can create simplicity around the sales formula, that one single metric, 0 to 100, red, yellow, green, did Colin have a good day or a bad day? This gives him total transparency on if he's doing the things that will make him successful without me, Mark, being over his shoulder at all time, which in a work from home world is impossible, but being over his shoulder to help coach through what right looks like. So find a way to create that level of accountability where you don't have to be looking into each report to know if it's happening. How can you create one simple way for Colin to know, for you to know if he had a good day or a bad day? Or maybe this is a good week or a bad week, depending on how your business is set up. What I also recommend doing is doing the same thing on your outcomes. Yes, you may be measured on one number, closed $1, if you hit or didn't hit. Or you might be judged on pipeline in certain stages or a number of senior stakeholders involved in deals. Depending on what that looks like, create a way like an objective score where you know if you're achieving the outcomes that are being set forth. Why do you need both? You need to know if your activities are leading to your outcomes. And if you're hitting your activities and you're not hitting your outcomes, well, guess what? Go back to that sales formula, understand conversion rate, where are things falling flat? Okay, so we have our schedule, we have our sales formula. Now let's talk about getting into your one-on-ones. In general, when you build the one-on-one structure, the idea is that you should lead with no more than 6 questions. The reason I say no more than 6 questions is this needs to be high-level questions that your employee can expand upon, and not too many where the one-on-one conversation just feels exhaustive and around too many details. The one-on-one conversation is intended to drive conversation around the most important things to you and that employee. So at Ambition, what we do is I have a one-on-one template. You're actually looking at it here with Matt, who's on my team. And we walk through the 6 questions. So what new pipeline from last week are you most excited about and why? What growth area are you focused on this week? Pick one opportunity, as you see here, in what we call Champion's Choice, which is a later stage opportunity. He'll tell me what he likes and doesn't like about that. And then we have what else at the end. Now, your one-on-one may look very different than that depending on the initiatives that you're driving. So depending on what that looks like, you would have your questions. You send those questions to the employee. The employee has a chance to prepare and fill them out based on what questions you, the manager, have provided. And then once you sit down, let the employee lead the conversation. In this example, Matt saying, hey, Mark, the new pipeline from last week was this company. It was a really good fit. It was a referral from another customer. This is why I really liked this deal. Great. That gives me a chance to ask questions and learn more about that pipeline and why he's excited. It also tells me what deal I should pay attention to moving forward in the pipeline. So have your questions, let the employee fill it out ahead of time. Let the employee lead the conversation. Stay less than 6 questions. If you find yourself getting more, I would argue you're not going to get to everything you need to cover. I mentioned this earlier. I keep mine at 45 minutes. Why do I keep it at 45 minutes? I think 45 minutes versus an hour is better because it keeps you on track. People keep moving. You don't linger too much. And I find that to be pretty helpful at staying focused on the most important parts of the conversation. My last piece I'll add here is that last question should always be what else? You need to open up the conversation to whatever is important to the employee. It might be my commission was wrong. It might be, I want to talk to you about my sales development rep. It could be a concern they have about product. It could be anything. And you as a sales leader need to open up, create the environment where an employee feels comfortable sharing that at the end of the one-on-one. When you do these things, you start to build the consistency of every week. We're talking about the important initiatives. And we're moving the ball forward, not only on pipeline and close one revenue, but the different levers and initiatives that are going to drive that close one revenue. So hoping this structure really starts to help you frame how you can be the most effective sales coach. So here you're seeing another example of a one-on-one. Again, before you meet is a really critical part here. Don't show up and just pepper somebody with questions. Give them a chance to prepare. Let them lead the conversation. You get the answers ahead of time, so you have the answers to the test. But when you sit down, let the employee lead. You're both more prepared to dive into the most important parts of the conversation, and you're off and running. All right, so we have the one-on-one conversation. We have the 6 questions. We have the 45 minutes. We're letting the employee lead. You're coming to the conversation already prepared. Now, it's inevitable that each coaching conversation is going to have a takeaway. It's going to have an action item, or it's going to have an action plan. So how do we create an action plan that holds the employee and the manager accountable and creating the visibility around what's going to happen next? So here's an example of a few action items that might come out of the one-on-one. Hey, we're going to move this SAL to SQL by end of quarter, this amount, or we're going to close this deal, or we're going to create X amount of new pipeline, or some kind of intro, or finish this training. Well, when you walk out of the one-on-one conversation, the question you should be asking yourself I should say, as you wrap up the one-on-one conversation, the question you should ask yourself is, what's next? Just like you ask yourself at the end of a sales call for next steps, the manager and the employee should be thinking about what are the next steps off of this coaching conversation. And managers, talking specifically to you, you should own several of these as well. It might be that you're introing to somebody else, or you're going to send an email on behalf of the rep to the other VP of sales at the prospective buying company. As a leader, as a servant leader, you have to think, how am I eliminating those obstacles? And so if you find the action items are only with the employee each time, you're doing it wrong. Now, you don't need to own all of them, but you need to own some of them. And so whether it be your owning or the employee owning, it needs to be created, visible, time-stamped, and oftentimes it's how you'll start your next one-on-one the following week. Okay, Jim, let's sit down and look at what we talked about last week. Okay, here was the action item that you were going to create 4 new Sals from your named account list. It looks like you created 3. Let's talk about those 3. What happened on the 4th? How can I help you on the 4th? What obstacle did you see in creating that 4th Sal? So when you have the action item and you're starting the following one-on-one with the action item from the previous week, that also starts to build the repetition, where each week the action item will be completed, it'll be worked, it'll be delivered upon, and you as a sales leader know that you are taking the ball and moving it forward based on what was shared and created at the end of the last one-on-one with your action item. Okay, so we've gone through the 4 key parts to creating a sales coaching culture that doesn't destroy your schedule or soul. To recap, have that schedule created. Have multiple touch points throughout the week to help communicate your initiatives. For me, it's a team meeting, it's one-on-ones, it's a quick daily stand-up, it's another team meeting on Thursday afternoon every other week, and a Friday wrap-up call. Then we move into creating that sales formula where you know what right looks like in terms of KPIs. How do we progress through a deal, and how do I as a manager know where to spend my time based on conversion rates within that funnel? Once we have that, we know where to coach. In the one-on-one communication that happens each week, give them the questions ahead of time. Let them fill out the questions and come and present that back to you. Keep it 45 minutes, less than 6 questions, end with what else, and create an action plan based on commitments that were made in that coaching conversation to execute upon between now and your next one-on-one conversation. I hope this has been really helpful. I try not to fluff, get right into the tactical things and help you become a better sales leader. You can find me on LinkedIn. Again, I'm Mark McWatters, VP of Sales here at Ambition. But thanks again for spending some time with me here, and look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much.